Hello and welcome to today's isolated podcast from Oceans Apart. Today we're joined by a special guest to talk about touring, Harry Pentony from our City Fives. Hello, Harry.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Yeah, all good, mate. Nice to speak to you. Thank you for jumping in today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Really looking forward to having a chat with you. We know you guys have got a lot of tour experience, so we thought you'd be the perfect man or perfect band to speak to about this.
Sounds good, yeah.
We've also got on the chat today Jordan, hello, from Oceans Apart. Hey, mate. And then, as usual, Kyle Palmer from Oceans Apart and myself from Oceans Apart.
Yeah, I just hang around like a bad smell. It's fine.
So a big hello to everyone, and thank you for joining us today. So the first thing we're going to talk about today in terms of unsigned music is setting up a tour. Where do we start? How do we go about it? Who do we organise this with? How do you contact venues? Things like that. So I just wanted to sort of pass it over first of all, maybe to yourself, Harry, because I know at the minute you guys are working with sort of like a booking agent that books your tours, and sometimes you've got management that books yours as well. Are there ever any elements where you sort of look for shows as well in different cities just as a band, or what advice would you give in terms of sort of setting up a tour from scratch if you just started a band?
I think from scratch, I think the best thing to do is kind of look at what other bands, like the genre style that you're doing, looking at other bands and seeing where they're performing, because you'll get a lot of bands that are playing in the same places, which generally means that the venue's going to be of a good enough standard to showcase your music, because that's one of the things. You don't want to play somewhere that can't provide the tech specs that you need for your music, because obviously you want to get your point across the best possible way, and the best performance, obviously, if you're traveling so much. So basically looking at posters and just seeing where bands are getting booked into, and what agencies they're using, essentially, which should be on the promotions on the poster.
That's a brilliant point, mate. I mean, that's even sort of something that's you brought to my attention, and I'll probably start noticing more now that when I've seen posters, I've never actually really focused on the booking agent before. But that's a really good point, that bands could start doing that and getting in touch with these agencies to help with tours. Kyle Palmer, you've obviously was in Flip Like Wilson. I remember you before you joined our band. You guys had like a Volkswagen were going out touring, weren't you? And
Yeah.
so what how did you set up your first tour?
I think our first, well, yeah, with Flip, it was the only tour we really did. But setting up that tour was a kind of a nightmare in the sense of, obviously we were younger back then, and we were going through kind of a label that we were working with at the time, and they generally took kind of like whole control of it. We just had to turn up on the day and off we went, really. Like, we got told what venues we were playing and where, but we really didn't have much kind of a say in kind of what venues and what cities. So it was kind of thrown together by this label head based in Nottingham, and it turned out to be a really good tour with kind of 3 other bands that we were on tour with. But because it was thrown together so kind of with no real thought, we were a pop punk band on tour with an indie band and a metal band.
Yeah.
So like the crowds weren't there, that you were playing to the bar staff most of the time. So I think that shows kind of keeping in mind setting up a tour in the right way. Like Harry made a good point, finding the venues that will hold your tech kind of spec and stuff like that. Because we turned up to one venue in Sheffield and they didn't have phantom power on the desk, so we couldn't play with a backing track. So
wow, I mean, that's something that I think we've probably even experienced in the past, because we obviously as a band, don't we, at the minute use some quite heavy sounds, and there has been times where the in-house PA is probably not built to handle them kind of sounds coming through the system and stuff. So yeah, like you say, Harry makes a great point on that it's always important to make sure you're checking the venues out that these agencies are booking in and knowing whether it's going to work for you. So Harry, this brings me back to you, mate. Obviously in our City Fives, you've mentioned and made the very good point about looking for agencies on the posters and everything like that. So that's a great point, and it leads me on to the next thing that I think is massive in terms of a band. Every band I've been in, touching on the podcast that we spoke about yesterday, funding and making sure that you can afford it as a band or as a unit. I think that's huge. I mean, is there any sort of hints or tips that you could do? We did say yesterday in our podcast that when you're setting up a band, I think nowadays especially, it's very important to sit down with your members and sort of say, we are going to be a kind of band that's going to be spending a lot of money to try and get somewhere or achieve something, or we're not, and we're just going to take this as a hobby and have a bit of a laugh. What's your views on that? And in terms of funding a tour, is it always a conversation that's easy enough to have for yourselves? I mean,
Yeah.
Setting up that sort of, right, okay, we're going on tour, boys. We know this is going to cost. This is how it's going to be.
It's difficult. I mean, the thing is about touring is a risk. You know as well, all of you know that being in the music industry, and we want to do this for a living and we want to achieve something with our bands. And it's always a risk because you never know what you're going to get. I mean, you might have like a venue packed and you might not, or you might be able to get a cheap hotel. It kind of depends. If you're for the budgeting, usually what I tend to do is I use something like bookings.com. I'll try like look for hostels. I mean, we're not that picky where we stay, as long as we, like, have somewhere to, put our heads and get a decent night's kip, and then we're ready for the next day. But the other thing with that as well, with the touring, is it depends where you are. If you're playing in London, it's going to cost you far more than it is if you're going to play, up in Leeds or up north.
Yeah.
So it is the best way, I'd say, is obviously the cheaper you can go hostel wise, maybe get one room between the 5 or 6 of you, or how many there is in the band, is probably the best way to do it, and split it that way.
Yeah.
I think you make a good point on kind of, whilst touching on like accommodation and stuff like that, whilst falling into like the funding side of things, like how do you guys kind of, because us personally, the tour last year, we found a guide from London that was really well priced to kind of drive us around, and obviously with all our gear, and that's how we got about with going from hostel to hostel. Like, we did very similar things with like hotels or hostels.
Yeah.
But how do you approach kind of each tour?
The way
wise, do you look at a van, or do you look to save money in that sort of area?
We've looked at getting a van. I think it just depends really on, where the tour circuit is, how far away, how much fuel you need to put into the car, etc., and the parking. I mean, the other thing is what we tend to do is we tend to individually, take ourselves or another member with us, only because, all of us have different lives and different commitments, and it's easier for people to come back and forth if, say, maybe one of the lads will spend a couple of nights up north and then decide to go home the next day. They've got kids, so they've got priorities as well that they need to try and mix both of them, which is completely respectful in doing so. Me personally, I kind of like to be out on the road, and I like to stay in the cities and talk to people afterwards of the gigs and try and promote the band that way, because I just think you got to make the most, if you can, make the most of that situation.
Yeah, whilst you're on the road, trying to constantly promote.
Yeah, I mean, like money's a big one. You can do things on the cheap, so like you limit yourself to a few meals a day, sort of thing. Go to McDonald's, get cheap food. Don't go wasting food in restaurants and stuff.
Yeah.
Or taking food with you. Go do a big shop. That's what we sometimes do. We sometimes go Aldi or something. We get a big shop and have a load of food in the car, so we're all kitted and ready for that, and we're not going out spending loads of money. It's difficult.
That's a good idea.
That makes sense.
It really does, because I'd never thought of that. I mean, obviously, what we done on our last tour, Harry, and lads, we were sort of like in the services going in sometimes to Burger Kings, and they're even sort of like overpriced to the ones in normal town centres, aren't they? So we that's a very good pointer that we could pick up from you guys, the fact that we could actually prepare and actually get quite a lot of food in the back ready, so we're not having to have that outlay, which is a really good point, Harry, mate. That's great. Yeah.
A lot of places up north, you'd be able to get like cheap apartments. So, I mean, even down south on the last tour, we played in Cardiff and we stayed in an apartment. And obviously, we've got an oven and everything. And we just bought a load of ready meals and had them after the gig. And it's much cheaper doing that, just buying bulks of food from a big shop, you know.
That does make sense, because Ash, again, touching on our tour last year, we would, like, before a gig would be ending up, in Nando's or something like that, and you soon paying like 20 quid each.
Yeah.
And that's not the best way to kind of save money whilst on tour. But whilst,
absolutely not,
I guess, touching on funding a tour, and obviously everything that comes with it, like the travel and accommodation that we've touched on, but what sort of path have you taken in the past? Like, that kind of goes out to everyone, Ash, Jordan, and Harry, but kind of on past tours. Have you, on past tours, Harry, funded the tour yourself, the actual shows, so booked each venue, or do you guys work with a?
We
you recently work with a booking agent, but has that been the case for every tour you've done?
Yeah, I mean, we work with an agency with that. Obviously, we have a package, so we're part of a roster. We do pay between us for the venue bookings and the contacts and locations, because obviously that does cost money.
Yeah,
that goes into the venue staff opening the doors, which obviously it does cost, which you have to understand as a band.
Of course.
You can look at it negatively and say you do have to pay to play, but it depends, because it's going to cost you anyway. It's just realistic.
Yeah, I suppose we were saying this yesterday, Harry. I think anybody now that sort of thinks that a band is going to come for free, an unsigned band in this day and age, is got a very dated opinion. Maybe in the 70s and 80s, when you could go to work in men's clubs and they've got built-in audiences, I get it. And rock music was massive back then, and people wanted new music. But now, I think even for an unsigned band to even just try and get out on tour is an absolute great achievement if you've managed to do it. So,
and the booking agents, it saves you a lot of beginners hassle. A lot of people, won't take you seriously when you first starting in a band. It just saves all the booking and the unknown. At least you know that you're dealing with someone. For example, like Bedlam bookings are outstanding. They've been on the circuit for years for alt rock and the scene. People know about Bedlam, and you'd be surprised. I mean, when I first started booking gigs in Our City Fires, I noticed that a lot of these venues now are not booking bands. That's it. You contact them, you email them, they won't reply, or if they do, they say talk to our promoters. They don't have a say in who they're booking. They've already got a licensed promoter for each venue. You see.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Thank you, Harry. I mean, Jordan, with you and funding a tour, but what's your views on it? Are you one of these that likes to sort of save in advance to go on a tour, or are you just sort of living off the cuff kind of thing?
Well, to be honest, I don't think there's any other way apart from actually prepare yourself and save in advance.
Yeah.
Unless you've got deep pockets, then there is absolutely no way that you can go out for a week, sometimes maybe 2 weeks or even months without actually being prepared.
Yeah. No, you make a good point. Lads. Which brings me on to the next thing. Kyle, this is something that me and you are looking into at the minute. Merch in terms of going on tour. Now, this brings me back to a little funny story. I think I touched this story to you the other day, Harry, and it was actually your band that enlightened us how bad our merch stand was. So we both played this gig with a band called As December Falls. It was a brilliant night, sold out night, and it was great, honestly. But we all had merch stands. Every band had a merch stand. As December Falls had their little setup. Then there was a band called Bronny that played next to them. And then I think you guys set up next to them, didn't you, Harry, after that? And then we were sort of on the end. And I'll be honest with you, that was the best place for us with how our merch
Yeah.
stand on that night.
We probably
I
should
mean,
have just set up in the toilets, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we basically I go and make an admission. We had like a set of t-shirts which were bought for us, weren't they, Kyle? Your
Yeah,
parents
by my
kindly bought them
parents,
for us. Um,
Can't grumble at that.
and basically our money tub was like, when you order a Chinese takeaway and you get one of the plastic containers, that was our money tub, and I didn't have no float, so I got a couple of quid out my wallet and threw that in there just to sort of start the float.
There was
And then we
beer
had
all over the
next to us,
t-shirts.
oh, honestly, next to us we had our City Fires, right? Okay, so you've got 3 different coloured t-shirts in every size you can imagine. You've got 2 professional looking CDs. You've got a list with everything that cost prices,
You got
like
lights.
how much it's going to be, lights,
You
and
got
it
2
just
people
looks,
behind it selling it.
yeah, it just looks so professional. Whereas our merch stand, I was stood there with a plastic container holding my beer, and this spilling all over the t-shirts with this little Chinese container with 2 quid in it, and the t-shirts weren't ironed, and we only had like 3 sizes as well, to the point that the guys that were doing the merch for our City Fires actually helped me try and find a size t-shirt in our own merch because it was that bad and they felt sorry for me. So that brings,
Yeah,
it was so
we've
funny.
learned from that for sure.
and
Which I kind of get.
this,
I guess it brings it on. It's because that was such a car crash for us, and it wasn't for Harry and his band. I guess it's a no-brainer. Is merch needed?
100%.
Yeah, we can all.
100%.
what's your views on it, Harry? Because obviously you guys have got a good merch setup, and you've got one that I look at and go, wow. I mean, I've even got one of your t-shirts, but I look at it and I go, that looks good. That makes me want to buy something from there. So we've not got to the stage where we've ever had sort of a solid merch setup yet. Do you think it's worth it on tours?
100%.
Yep.
100%. Because at the end of the day, it's an investment. You know, you're trying to build a brand. You're trying to sell your music. You know, and at the end of the day, people don't pay lots of money for tickets anymore. You know, you don't sell as many records anymore. That's how the industry is, and you've got to make every possible income possible, really.
Yeah, I think like it shows in the industry on the unsigned level, like a band like As December Falls, they put posts, quite a lot, saying, especially during lockdown as well, saying, and even Spotify streams, they had like 1 million streams over 1 month or something.
Yeah,
or like over the whole year, like 1 million, like 1.5 million or something stupid like that. And it didn't even cover half of a day's recording, like for the stream. So they were saying, like, buy merch. It means way more to us as any sort of stream would.
Merch can really save you. That's the thing. If, for example, I've had many gigs. Well, not many. I've had a few gigs where we've all been there and we think, oh God, maybe it's not been promoted as good and it's not as busy as you'd expect it to be, and etc. and that. And you find out sometimes on those days you sell more merch. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
You'll sell more, and these people wear it.
That's what I mean. And like, look, when you brought back onto like it's a brand you're trying to push, and the more people that's wearing your top around, the more people's going to be like, oh, what's that? And like a club night or a different gig. And I think that's where we're us as a band. I don't know if Jordan and Ash would agree, but that's where we're kind of failing in an area.
Yeah,
I think definitely.
Like, we know it's very important, but we've just never ever got to that point to really actually.
I didn't realize. Yeah, I didn't realize how important it was until I did a couple of tours. I started realizing. I was like, wow, these bands are really, some of their merch stands were amazing, and I picked up ideas from that, as you do, all bands, you pick up ideas off of each other, and it honestly, it saved us with funds. It pays for your meals, it pays for your petrol.
Yeah.
You sell 5 t-shirts at a tenner each. That's 50 quid in your pocket. That's enough. Yeah. That's enough to travel expense, and
you keep, like I say, you keep pushing merch on tours. It probably allows you to do another tour in the future. It allows you to keep going.
Exactly. At the end of the day, you're trying to push your band as much as you can. Why would you limit yourself to just the music?
Yeah,
because
you're right.
Streaming now anyway. I mean, yeah, that's great because it goes out there and you've got more of an audience, etc. But no one's buying it.
No.
No,
So where's your income going to come from? You know,
no,
especially
that's
being a signed band.
yeah, that's a great point, Harry. And like I say, I think your band, if anybody, you should go and check out our City Fires out, by the way, because they put a great live show on. But your band is a prime example of a band that is doing merch right. And when me, Jordan, and Kyle have come to your gigs, the first thing that we've pointed out when we've been to watch you sometimes is how many people have actually got our City Fire t-shirts on when they're watching you. So yeah, good work, man.
Honestly, I've seen people, I don't know, just out and about, and other members have said, "Oh, I've seen someone with a t-shirt on," and that the word gets across eventually,
Yeah, yeah,
because at the end of the day, people love clothing. Clothing never dies. Fashion never dies. People wear clothes and stuff. Obviously, well, you'd hope so.
Right. Well, this brings me on to the next point I was going to talk about. I mean, I'm going to ask you, Jordan, on this next point. First of all, so tours. We've, of a band, have been on a headline tour, and we had the experience of being the headline band on a tour after we were together for 1 year. So I think what we are very experienced in is knowing how it feels to go on a tour when your name's not out there yet and you've been put as the headline band. So my question to you guys now is, do you think it's more beneficial for bands our size, whether it be a buy-on or whether it be you go on your own and do it as a headline tour, to possibly either share a tour with somebody or have a support tour, or just keep doing headline tours and keep working on your social media and hope that people turn up around the country? I mean, Jordan, what's your views on that one first of all?
Well, my view is for unsigned bands like us, our City Fires, and well, all the other smaller bands in Leicester, we need to start off as a support. I think that if we wasn't as a band as we are, could have potentially destroyed us.
Brilliant.
It's just hard work, like in the pressure that's put on you to try and sell these venues to cities that you've never even been before is immense.
Yeah, definitely. No, thank you, Jordan. I mean, Harry, again, it'd be nice to get your spin on this. Because I noticed that obviously you've done tours before where you've sort of been the top name on the poster, but then you've also done tours where you've been in the middle of the poster or sometimes at the bottom. And what has been the difference in terms of experience of each of them tours? Like, were the ones where you were sort of in the middle of the poster a bit more beneficial because you were playing to other bands' fans, or have you got to that level now that people are following you to different cities and it would be beneficial for you to put headline tours on, or what's your spin on it?
That's an interesting one, really, because I've done headline tours with Bedlam, I've done support tours. I think really it does depend on the bands playing, as in general. I mean, like, for example, we put on a headline show in Leicester. Obviously, because we're from Leicester, we're gonna near enough sell it out. So for the other bands, it's great because they come here, they can grow, they can show their music to a bigger platform. And we played up and down the country as even a headline band. On our first tour, and the agents have made sure they've put on the right bands that are eager. They want to sell tickets, they want to impress. So in that respect, it was beneficial for us as well because we got something out of that as well. They were bringing people because they were bothered. And really you just got to want it, because I know you guys, if you got offered an opportunity, for example, you played with As December Falls and that, you're pushed to sell tickets and you will sell them because you're bothered as well. So I think it just depends on what bands are playing on the night. I think if you're a headline, sometimes you run the risk that people will leave and not give you a shot once their band's done.
Yeah, we experienced that very heavily on our tour, didn't we, Kyle?
We did.
We were getting to most cities, and some of the bands were using our kit, so they didn't have to take their own. And when they were finished, they were packing up. And
Going.
I'm not gonna lie. So some of the nights we were even playing just to the sound guy and the bar staff in the end, weren't we, Kyle?
Yeah.
And
It's
and
that, and like you've got you've said you run the risk on headline tours of, if you're not working with a good promoter or a good kind of booking agent, they will kind of slam any sort of band on the bill, and
Yeah.
like they just turn up with no sort of kind of inkling of like, oh, we don't need to do anything really to get this show. We play,
Yeah.
we leave, like the
I mean-
40 people we brought leave with them, and then you're out of pocket because you're driving around the country playing to no one.
I mean, at the end
it's
of
the risk you run.
it's about supporting each other, but it shouldn't be looked at as competition. I mean, I think a
No.
lot of bands look at each other like competition. I mean, healthy competition is good, right? But at the end of the day, you can all use each other to grow.
Exactly.
That helps each other. If I, what we do is we tend to, if we're on tour, we'll watch every band. We try unless we've got to go out. We've got to get something to eat or something because we haven't eaten something in God knows how long. We're just going to go out for a snack or something, But or we're meeting some bands that are coming to watch us. But generally, we are sitting there and we're watching them because we want to support them. We want to meet new bands. We want to network because, again, this is about getting the most out of touring. Getting the most about being on the circuit is getting to know other bands, and you can help each other. So,
no, that's a really good point.
I think it's all about kind of clubbing together and
it's
not
just respect.
Yeah, not having them. I guess younger bands, like new bands, fall in that trap of like they bring their friends and then they leave. Like, you fall in that trap of like they can't have a late night or something like that. But I think the older you get, the more kind of, I guess, the respect you have in general to watch every band and support.
Yeah, that's it. It's a bit sad, but you can't force it on people. But it's a bit sad because you think, oh, maybe they'll like our stuff, or
if they just gave each band a shot, kind of thing.
Yeah, but this is the thing. This is about the industry is ruthless.
It is.
It sure is.
And I do feel that sometimes, as musicians, sometimes even cop the brunt of that. Like, we're even the bottom of the tree of the unsigned music industry. I know everybody has sort of their own bugbears, like venues have things that they need to keep up with, and promoters have their bugbears of bands probably not putting enough effort in. But as an unsigned band, it's all until you get to a certain stage, it's all cost, work, and that's just the way it works, I think. But you make great points, lads. In terms of promoting a tour, how do you guys think that should be done? Do you believe that you should be pumping money into Facebook adverts to say that you're going around the country or everything like that, or do you just let it naturally happen from promoting your band? What's your thoughts on that? Any of you? I mean,
I'll quickly touch on that. I'd say it falls into a bit of like promoting a tour, depending if it's a headline or a support tour.
Yeah.
Find like majority of tours, you're not going to get on a tour for free. Like we've spoken about this before. Nothing costs nothing. Something will always cost X amount. So, be it a headline, you're going to have to go through a booking agent, and they'll book the venues and whatnot for you. I think promoting a headline tour would be generally, like from last year, was very hard because you're going out as a nobody, trying to kind of target them people that potentially will come to see you on a Friday night when they just probably want to go out with their mates and not bothered about this random alt rock band from Leicester.
Yeah,
I find promoting a support slot, like as December Fool's tour coming up, I find with that is a little bit more not kind of using as December Fools, but we know they're popular in certain cities, so they'll have a slightly built-in crowd, so we can target them people a lot more, kind of like zone in on them people, and then do Facebook ads, do Instagram ads, and kind of just target them people because we know they're going to come. We just need to get them to come early to see us.
Yeah,
I think it's personally, in my eyes, promoting kind of a support slot is a lot easier, and using kind of Facebook and social media in general just to push and target a particular group of people.
Yeah.
Is the way I would look at it.
Brilliant, mate. No, that makes sense. I mean, Harry, are you guys sort of on the same sheet with that? Would you say that you sometimes it is a little bit easier if you've got that band that's probably at a level already that people have heard of them? Like you guys have played with All Ears of Owl quite a lot as well, haven't you? Like, I suppose if you went around the country with them guys, the targeting of fans would be a little bit easier than, say, if Oceans Apart and Our City Fires went out on the road together, because All Ears of Owls have got quite a strong reputation around the country at the minute. Yeah,
exactly. I think just making sure that these tours that you go on, the music is of the right genre. You want to interest the same target audience, because then you're selling your product to the wrong people that are not going to like it. Music is well, we all like different things, don't we? So it's about having, getting something from being on the supporting the band that you're touring with, but also be able to give them something back as well. It's a two-way thing. But I think in regards to promoting, the best way, like Kyle said, use Facebook and Instagram advertisements. Even when you're on the road, we do a lot of live videos. So we do a lot of Instagram live and Facebook live, just to keep people occupied and on the day, to tell them, that we're in the city and that. And what we do is we tend to go out for a drink or down the street. We'll tell people that we're playing, and X and X.
Yeah.
X,
It's everything you can do. Like, even like you say, like, you can do as much promoting online, but
even posters
face to face, like flyers, posters on the day. Like, we're playing this bar. If it's a Friday night, we're playing it here at 9:00. You never know. You might get 20 people to come down with their mates.
That's it. You just stand out. I mean, if your venue's on the main street, just go on the main street and just talk to people.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
People are intrigued, and at the end of the day, socializing with people, they might give you a shot. They might just be wandering around, or students, or it's worth a go. Just talking to people. Obviously, not putting it on them, but doing anything you can. But like you said, when it's in a city that you've not played in before, and you're not really known there, you do rely on that headline band, because they have that fan base. But also, you rely on the venue itself. There's a lot of venues that don't do themselves any favors. They don't put you out on the chalkboard. They don't put the posters up in the venue. You don't even know who's playing. That's the thing that I'd say upsets me, because I just think, why wouldn't you make the most out of the event? I don't understand.
Like, if a venue, that's I think where certain venues, like you say, don't help themselves, like, and why you see potential venues close, it's not because of, like, they're not getting the business. They're getting gigs. They're just thinking, it's a nothing gig. But if they did try and push it and try and promote it, and they get more people in the door, it's more money for them, like on the bar.
Exactly.
So it's like a win-win.
Exactly. You got to make the most out of any income situation you can. You got to be passionate about it. I think that's what's lacking nowadays. Not everywhere, but I think it's not all a money game. Music.
It's true. It's very true, mate. I've got to agree with you there. Like, there's venues even in Leicester that we talk about. I know we called them out a lot yesterday for the work that they're doing at the minute, but like the Shed, they've always got a board up and putting Facebook posts up saying what they've got on at the venue and this week and that week. Whereas there's some venues in our city which don't so much, and they just think, oh, well, you look on our website if you want to know what's going on. And that's the mass difference of why the Shed is got good business coming through the doors at the minute, and some of these venues probably haven't so much.
That's it, mate. And when you touch up on that, us young lads, we go out for a drink, for example. You see a big list in that venue.
Yeah.
All these events.
What's going on?
Or at the O2 Academy, we'll try that event.
Yeah.
Probably would never have gone if we never saw that.
You're right, mate, and that is a great point, because I've looked at them boards before, and if I've been out for a drink with you or you, Kyle, or you, Jordan, I've turned around and said, "Oh, shall we come to this? This looks brilliant!" Like, and the venue then has done their bit promoting, because they've let you know what's on there. So that's a great point, boys. I mean, the next thing I want to talk about, Jordan, I'm going to come to you on this one, is sort of tour life when you're out on the road. Things like, is it important to keep healthy, or is it important, or do you just live the rock star life and go out boozing every single day? Now, before we go on this point, I just want to touch up on a mistake that I personally made. I'd bought some whiskey for the tour van, some High Club, and
No.
and
Typical Ash, eh?
every
We
morning,
know where this is going.
every morning at 11 o'clock, that High Club bottle was open, and I was drinking it. And we got to Manchester. We were all feeling a bit deflated anyway because we'd had a few accidents on tour, which brings me to keeping healthy, which we can talk about on tour. And I literally sounded like Phil Mitchell when I was talking. And I got to Manchester. I just looked round the room. I saw that nobody was there. And I thought, I've got an hour set tomorrow in my home city, which we've sold tickets for. I thought, do I do the professional thing here that I should really be doing, and no matter what, honouring this gig and playing it, or do I go with what my head's telling me? Go up to the guy that's running the rep for the show and tell him we're not bothering because, and let the band on below as headline because they've brought loads of people anyway to watch them. And that's exactly what we've done as a band. A couple of the members were feeling unwell as well. But it brings me on to my point, and I'll start with you, Jordan. Do you think it's important to keep healthy on a tour? Because we've experienced what it's like when you just go and try and live the rock style life. I think that you end up sacrificing what you're actually there for sometimes, which is the shows, for personal experience.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine line where there's like being on tour and having a good time, or like trying a bit too hard to be, a rock star. And you could actually, well, if you want to do the rock star life, why don't you just go on a lad's holiday to Ibiza for a week?
Yeah.
But I think firsthand, actually experiencing what it's like when people overstep the mark.
Yeah.
For instance, with Leon, we were in A&E from 12 at night to 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
So I was like watching him, like being sick, coughing up blood. And I think personally, I do think Leon may have overdone it a little bit on the tour.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem. We all did.
Well.
I completely agree. I think that as a band, Oceans Apart, as I know, obviously the tour hadn't gone how we thought it was going to go. We'd spent a lot of money organising it and everything like that, and we thought, well, let's make the most of it. But in the end, I agree. I think us as 5 members probably started to decide, well, let's turn this into a party instead of a tour, and our performances definitely suffered because of that. And and so you make a great point, Jordan. I mean, Harry, with your band, what do you guys do? Is there ever, I know you're quite a healthy guy anyway, you like to keep your exercise up and everything even when you're not playing, but in terms of on tour, is that where you'd probably do the opposite and let your hair down and think, right, well, I'm having a few drinks every day now and I'm doing this? And is it different for different members of the band? Like, can guitarists do that and bass players do that and drummers do that and vocalists probably not so much? Because I feel like as a vocalist, and Danny, the singer of your band, will probably tell you the same, that sometimes you really do feel like you have to miss out on what the rest of the lads are doing just to look after your instrument, which is built in you, unfortunately.
For sure. I mean, you're touching up on that. Danny's very committed to his performance. I mean, a lot of the time we'll go and get some post-gig drinks, or we'll go out to some clubs and bars in cities that we've not been to before just to make the most of it, because you don't know when the next time you'll be on tour. And it's a bit disheartening because you see that he wants to. Of course, we all want to have fun and enjoy it. And, it doesn't help the buzz you get after playing. After a good gig, you just want to go out all night and celebrate. That's just natural, isn't it? But, we've all made the mistake of going too far before, like you guys. I think that's all part of like beginning as a band, and understanding these little things do make a big difference, because at the end of the day, it's work. Being on tour is work. You might have a job, but it's not a holiday. You're not staying in luxury hotels unless you can afford it and you really want to waste the money. You're going out there to promote your brand.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. So Danny, yeah, like he'll take Honey and Vocal Zones, and we usually get a sponsorship of Vocal Zones and stuff like that on our tours. And that's basically it. I mean, he'll just save it for the headline show or the last day, and he'll enjoy himself that way because he knows. Because I just think it affects people differently, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a good point where he kind of knows before going on tour, like I'm going to behave in a way like like you say it's work, and then when it comes to the last show, like be it the hometown, like last Leicester show, there's going to be a built-in crowd. He
Yeah,
can let his
exactly.
hair down after that because you don't have any shows for probably the next 2 or 3
And
weeks.
yeah, exactly. And what you were saying, Ash, about is it different for different members of the band? You know, the guitarists and that. I think it is in a way, yeah, because my performance is playing guitar. All I've got to do is make sure that I can play that and perform to the best I can, which is still, I can't go out there and get, completely wasted and silly and then perform as good as I did the night before.
Yeah.
But it's not going to noticeably affect my performance, whereas a vocalist it would.
Yeah.
Everybody listens to the vocalist. Vocalists have got the hard job, for sure.
I think that pushes on to something I was going to mention with kind of keeping healthy and having that in mind. And if you're going on a sprint, our tour was only Tuesday to Saturday, so and then come Friday we were pretty much dead, and that's not really good enough in a sense of like you're fresh faced on Tuesday, and by Friday we've pretty much ruined ourselves. So like, do you think like tour endurance in general, keeping healthy on tour,
Good
like
sleep.
how would you kind of approach if you got given like a 3-week tour?
See, that's different. I've not actually been in that situation yet.
But would you do the same things that you do in normal life? Like Ash mentioned, like you generally keep fit yourself. You work out, you eat healthily. Would you do as much as you can and not really go out partying? Like you finish the set and go bed kind of thing, or would you try and let your hair down a little bit, but knowing you've got like 3 weeks ahead of you?
I mean, I think it would be a mixture of both. If you're doing like a 2-3 week tour, obviously you don't want to blow out too early, especially if you're playing consecutive days like we are. We're playing every night. We're not. If you've got a day rest, then maybe you can mix it up a bit. But at the end of the day, the way I see it, the way we see it, is our priority is it's work. At the end of the day, we love it, but we are there to really give the best impression we can of our band, our performance, our image, our reputation. And if we're going out and getting wasted and having, like all of us young lads and what everybody does, I mean, it's life, but we're not going to get that across the best way.
No.
And
the band's image and sound is going to be sacrificed for
exactly
the game, like just for fun.
The biggest thing we go with the attitude is, if we can come away from each place and say, I could not have done anything more. I mean, the sound guy might have not been up to the job.
Yeah.
The speakers, there might be problems, technical difficulties, or we might be wasted, which hopefully we're not. But if we've come away from each place and gone, that is the most I could have done. I've played I've rehearsed, I've performed, I've gave the best possible thing I could do, and everything that went wrong, or because things do go wrong, that's life.
Yeah, they certainly do.
Just living with regret. You don't want to live with regret at anything you do.
No, I completely agree, Harry. I mean, I suppose you know what you've done it a few times on this call, but which is why we've got you on, because obviously you've been touring a lot recently, and you've enlightened me, because I suppose now looking back, even on our first tour, there's so much I would have changed, probably even just to make that tour a little bit better for us, even in the bad circumstances we had. I think we probably as a band could have done more after all the money we spent. Would you agree, Jordan, that we probably could have done a bit more in terms of us as 5 professionals, instead of, because we didn't, we didn't leave our everything in every single one of them venues at all, did we? I wouldn't say so.
No.
Right. Okay. So that brings me to my next question, Harry. So obviously you've enlightened us today, like I just said, that about things we probably could have done more and left a bit more of ourselves in each venue and probably put more effort in and not drank so much and stuff like that. Which brings me to the next point. Say you've got a day off in the middle of a tour. You've got a 5-6 day tour and you've probably got the Wednesday off. Do you take that time to explore the nice city that you're probably in, or would you prefer to just rest up in the hotel and have a chill day as such? What would be your advice, or what would be your preference on that?
Personally, I'm all for exploring. I mean, everybody's different. A lot of people just like chilling and not going out there and being as active in that respect, which is completely fine. I think getting the most out of the location you're in is important. I think you can do a lot on social media about, get some interesting band photos, get some blogs going on. You can promote the tour once you're out and it looks great. I think just making the most out of being in a different place, and for sure, I think that's important.
Yeah, I personally agree with if you've got a day off, like you're not burning yourself out to the point of just walking around and exploring that city that you might have never been to is not, you're not ruining yourself. If you're going to explore and you end up on a pub crawl, then it's probably not very professional. But if you're exploring that city, just getting some photos like you said and stuff like that, and having the thought in the back of your mind, this is for the band. So if I'm exploring, I'm getting shots for the band's Instagram. I'm doing this for the band. I'm doing this for the band. I'm not doing it to sink 10 pints.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's just about exploring the city. I mean, even looking at other venues or just talking to people in general, or even people you've met from the gig. From the night before, you wake up in the morning and you might, for example, meet up some guys that you met at the gig, or
it's all about like we were speaking about yesterday, Ash, like networking and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, we always like to stick our neck out and go out and not only watch other bands, but in this sort of topic that we're talking about on tour, when there's bands on from each city, if a local band's coming to play, I will always make an effort to stand and watch them and at least have a little chat with them after, unless they're really showing signs that they're not interested to talk to me. But I 1,000,000% think that that's vital, that you need to have a good chat and try and make friends with these people in these cities, because if they ever seen a poster with you on it playing in that city again, they might think, I'm going to go and see them. They were actually nice guys, So
another point quickly, just on the days off, like, do you rest or do you go explore? Excuse me. And I think if we just rested in our hotel, just sat in the van resting until we go to the venue, we wouldn't got half of the stuff that we put on Instagram. Even though the shows weren't great, we made the Instagram look as good as possible. Like the afternoon in Newcastle where we decided to run into the sea.
Yeah.
We would have done that if we weren't exploring and just messing around. And we get good likes on social media for stuff like that, and it always helps the social media side of things as well.
This is it. I mean, the beauty of social media for an upcoming band now is you can make everything look larger than life. You can make everything. You can get everything out to such a wider audience, than you ever could nowadays. So it's just about getting footage and also connecting with your fans. I think that's really important.
Yeah, in any way possible.
Answering questions. At the end of the day, we're all people. That's it. We're all the same. And it's just about networking and creating relationships.
Definitely. I agree with you massively there, Harry. I mean, this brings me on to sort of the final point that I wanted to talk to you guys today. First of all, I just want to thank everybody again for sort of who's listening. And if you ever want to jump in on one of the calls and you're an unsigned musician, just please write to us, because we're more than interested to listen to you. And thank you for you guys. And Kyle, as usual, thank you for sorting this out. And this was your initial idea, so thank you. And so it brings me to my last question today, boys. We as a band and bands that I've spoke to have very different opinions on this. and I just want to get your guys' take on it. Do you think it's important to take people with you on tour that are not members of the band for purposes? The questions I ask are, do you think then that just sort of tries to turn this into a party instead of a tour? Or will these people be there to serve a purpose and actually help the band? What are your guys' experiences of that, and your thoughts? I mean, what I'll do is I'll go to you first, Harry, and ask you, then Kyle, if you can do that, and then Jordan, we'll try you and see whether we can see whether the audio works for you. Is that all right? So, Harry, if you could just let us know.
Yeah, I think personally, I think having some members, having a tour crew or some members with you to help out can be very important. Can do your band some like a word of good. Sorry, can't even speak properly today. Because
Down fever, mate. Lockdown fever.
Yeah. At the end of the day, for example, on the merch stand, a lot of the time, I'll have my brother on the merch stand. He loves being involved with the music and being supportive, and having somebody there that somebody can talk to and represent the band. Straight after a gig, we might be getting changed or getting stuff ready, and then no one's going to be there, which is obviously when people buy your merch.
Yeah.
So having somebody representing and taking care of something else, because at the end of the day, as a band, you want to go there and just focus on getting your performance right and getting your music across the best possible way you can, and achieving a fan base. At the end of the day, that's the focus. I think if you need to look after the merch and you need to look after the photos and the footage, it all gets a bit overwhelming and you lose focus of what really matters, which is the music, personally.
Yeah, I definitely agree to that. I find, like, personally, I've only ever done 2 or 3 tours, and we've not really had anyone else but the band. And I do find, especially the tour we did last year with this band, because it was just as I do find, if there's too many kind of people on tour, it can be people start potentially arguing, or there's just a lot of kind of opinion on tour. But then it can also help the fact that I think just because it was 5 of us and we were doing absolutely everything, like we burnt ourselves out.
Yeah,
and that's why I think it got to the end of, like, Leon becoming ill and stuff like that. I think having extra people could help that, but it's got to be a good vibe.
Yeah, trustworthy people at the end of the day. As long as they know that they're not here for a holiday, that they're part of the team. We have like a photographer and a guy sorts out our images. We might even do some video shooting, etc. And he does a wicked job, and he loves our music. And
well, that's a good point. Saying about doing video shooting and stuff like that, I thought I'd quickly jump in. Like, what is in your recent music video tour footage? So there you go. There's another thing for social medias and stuff. Just whilst having that one person that
we couldn't do that ourselves because we don't have a knowledge of doing work, and it's too much work. We're focusing on
the music. Yeah.
The task at hand and our instruments, and making sure the repairs are right. There's loads of things. You know what it's like. Do I need to go to music shop and get a few bits? Do I need this? Do I need that? Do I need, doing how much more merch? Do we have, and how much need, except it's just too much. That's the way we see it. We want somebody who's beneficial to our team, someone who helps the band, and that
100%.
As well, which is like what you said. You run the risk of, if you don't have the right people on your team, they will just use it as a holiday and not take it serious, and you probably get a lot more negative than positive out of that.
A good point having, because obviously your brother comes on and the guy that does the video, and I don't know if you have another person on merch. Say you have 2 or 3 people come with you.
Yeah.
How does that fall back onto the funding at all? Does that fall? Is it your choice? You're taking people with you. Does it just fall on the band to cover their hotels and kind of pay?
What
do you talk to them and they kind of help covering that?
I think it just depends. I mean, usually we cover their expenses. So, if we've got another person with us, we'll pay for a 6-room
Yeah.
and split that between the 5 of us. We pay for their food, their expenses.
And
It's not much to ask,
No, I guess that kind of helps in the fact that you're covering their expenses, and even if you know them, you know they're trustworthy people, but
Exactly.
it kind of helps the fact that they know they're not going on holiday. They're there to kind of help and do a job for you.
At the end of the day, it's they're making a business for themselves as well.
Yeah.
These photographers and media workers, they're looking to increase their fan base. They're all,
portfolio and whatnot.
a tour could be a great opportunity for them, but as well, it's having the understanding that new bands, struggle with jobs and money and paying to play and
Yeah.
So it's just about having an understanding and a mutual respect for each other. If you've got the right people on tour, I think a tour crew is like a massive advantage to your experience on the road. But like you said, if it's not, it could end up throwing
a spanner in the works.
Yeah. I agree with that, because I'll be honest, and I'm going to put my neck out here now. I personally was somebody that on the last tour said, I do not want anybody coming. Like, I don't want people coming with the band. I think the band needs to go and experience this. But I did learn a lot, and it touches back on what you were saying, KP, that I think if we probably would have had the right 1 or 2 people on the tour with us, I think our behaviour would have been controlled a lot more. And I think maybe we would have put things like merch out, or been able to network the band in some kind of way at these gigs where they could come over and find out a little bit more about us. Instead, we were too bothered about getting the kit back in the van, making sure everything like that, even with kit helping, having somebody there just
That's
to
what I mean. It just everything fell down to us as a band, and I find it like Harry made a point about merch earlier, saying like you might think the gig is not going to be very well, like goes very very well, or it might be an empty gig or something like that. But they're the gigs that you might sell more merch, like
but
because
you might
you
surprise
might have
yourself.
10 people there, and you might get most of them that actually pick up a shirt, and that
Yeah.
falls back on like us not being organised very well for the last tour we did last year, and not having merch. There's opportunities we were missing out on, and because we didn't have people with us, there was no point taking merch, because we would packing down or something like that, so we didn't have someone to sell the merch for us.
Exactly, because
potential sales.
Yeah, because obviously our focus at the time was making sure that the kit that we'd spent sort of thousands of pounds on was safe, instead of what we were actually there for. When in realistic terms, we probably should have been taking somebody to do that job for us in terms of the kit, and maybe somebody even to help out making sure that the band name was put around a little bit as well. So I definitely agree, and that's the reason that obviously we chose this as a topic as well, Kyle, because we can talk about our experience the same as Harry has today, in terms of what pointers we'd give to bands that are probably got tours planned later in the year and everything. And maybe if they listen to this, it could help a little bit in terms of tour behavior and everything like that. So no, that's a really valid point. So that's really everything that I wanted to cover with you today, lad. Again, thanks for coming and joining us today, mate. We are going to be tagging your band in the post that we put up on Facebook, so go and check out our City Fires that are on here. And this is Harry from the band. And we hope all your tours and everything this year, when we finally get over this COVID, go well, mate. And we wish your band the best of health and best of luck as well, buddy. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you everybody for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Take care.
Thank you.